twilight zone here. I've sort of been talking, our advisor Philip Sutton, he describes the rate of climate change that we're experiencing. The only thing faster is an asteroid striking the Earth. And we're like a little group of people here trying to say, hey, there's an asteroid, we can see it. You know, we can see it coming, let's try to take it out. Let's try to shoot this thing out of the sky. And everybody over in the UN right now is going to say, oh, we're slowing it down, we're going to be fine, it's going to be a slow impact, everything's going to be okay. And that's what Hillary Clinton said at the debate the other night. She said, Bernie Sanders dared to criticize this agreement. He said, I don't think it's enough, which is pretty mild, I think, compared to what you could say, actually. And she said, how dare you, Bernie, decry the great Paris Agreement. We put so much work into this agreement. We got so many world leaders to agree on this agreement. If we had taken, I said this on Bernie TV the other day, if we had taken that kind of pat on the back approach to fighting the Nazis, to fighting Japan in World War II, we would all be speaking German in Hammarskjold Plaza right now. We would have lost, because we would have completely failed. It's a recipe for failure, the approach that's being taken at the UN today, and that's being taken in the White House, and that's being taken by quite a lot of, unfortunately, our NGOs, which we're gonna talk about a little bit. So I just want to explain quickly some of this harsh language I'm using to describe the Paris Agreement. Our advisor David Spratt in 2008 wrote a book called Climate Code Red, and that book has held up very well. That's 2008, that's 8 years ago. They were calling for an emergency response. And in the last few months, we are now seeing why that would have been a good idea to do an emergency response 8 years ago. So now we're in a really extreme emergency. It's sort of amazing. The Earth seems to be sending us a message. In this agreement, in December, they said, we're going to hold temperatures well below 2 degrees. We're going to aim to hold temperatures well below 2 degrees above pre-industrial. Not exactly clear what they meant by pre-industrial, whether that's 1880 or 1750. And we're going to pursue a limit of 1.5 degrees, which a lot of people portrayed as 1.5 to stay alive. And I'm not so sure we're going to stay alive under 1.5. But what happened was in February, the true pre-industrial temperatures went up to 1.9 or 2. It's not exactly clear. The whole thing was rendered irrelevant in 2 months. Now it might go back down, but this is absurd. And they're going to say today, well, we're going for net zero emissions in the second half of this century. We got 50 to 85 years to deal with this problem. And here we are, this tiny group of people, we're saying, we see the asteroid, we can feel the heat. It's coming down, it's about to wipe us all out. This is a matter of life or death. And that's what you guys are going to be showing here today. And this is, we cannot wait around for a Pearl Harbor moment. That's what these people are saying. They'll say, oh, we're gonna get real. The American public will wake up once we have our climate Pearl Harbor. Well, these guys, these Australians who follow all of the science, they showed me a study. It was printed in The Guardian. This is internationally known. The permafrost, according to the paleoclimate record, could start to continuously thaw. This study came out a few years ago at 1.5 degrees Celsius. That means the situation could become completely out of control. Like even if we could draw down all this CO2, it would take centuries and centuries and centuries. And we are now getting up to that temperature, and the borders of the permafrost are thawing. So this kind of situation that could literally take down our entire civilization, that could destroy the biosphere, is an emergency. And that's why you guys are all here today, and that's why this is so important that we've got this group of people here saying, let's take down the climate asteroid, let's save ourselves, let's do this right now. Thank you.
Great. We're going to turn it over to the passive bureaucrat and toothless NGO, and you know what to do when they pass you by.
Great job. You've done such a wonderful job.
Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for helping us out. Yeah. Yes, I think now, well, the envision where we can frack our way out of this one.
Brilliant! Good job!
Well, what an accomplishment. What an accomplishment.
You know, all people really have to do is change their light bulb to CFL, right? Yes!
Clean water, who needs it? I know. Well, 4% off the
4%!
books.
Yes! Great job! You're doing such a great job!
Well, it's a really historic achievement this year. Another 2% of greenhouse gas emissions we've reduced. Yes. Well, look at this. How good is that?
Great job. I think that all the countries in the world should sign that agreement. It's going to bring emissions down immensely on a gradual level, on a gradual pace.
Another 4%.
Great job.
Well, I think we got some more innovation left in the tank. What do you say?
Let's pull it out. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Another 4%. We did it.
Good work.
Thanks so much.
I think this agreement, another 2% off the books, greenhouse gases down. It's calls for a cigar. What do you say?
I think so.
Good job. Oh! I think we got, some more innovation here.
Let's do it. Let's
Great
do it.
work, great work.
Job.
I think another, 2% should do it.
I think you're right. Great job.
And, well, there's a few of us left. Another 4%.
I think we can do it.
4% reduction in greenhouse gases. Brilliant.
am lying, and heal and save, and Ave there for me. And I shall hear the softer tread above me, and then my name will warm a sweeter thee. For you will never tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me.
The thing that I want to talk about, the thing that I want to say, that I want to emphasize, is that what we just acted out, the collapse of civilization, it is a choice. This is a choice that humanity is making. It is a choice that is being made right now in the United Nations, and it is a choice that we are making every day that we continue on our current course. It is the default choice. We are choosing the collapse of civilization every day. We live our lives as normal. Every day we focus on personal goals rather than preventing this apocalypse. It's not our fault, right? No one person caused this. No one asked for this. No one wants this. I spent a lot of time thinking, God, I wish I was a baby boomer. I wish I had been born into a different generation where I wouldn't just be staring down the barrel of catastrophe. But here we are, and it's a choice. We can choose to fight, and if enough of us choose that, we can win. The Climate Mobilization is a group dedicating to fighting the collapse of civilization. To do that, the only way we can imagine avoiding state after state going down because of famine and drought and instability and severe weather and huge refugee crises, the only way that we can avoid this fate is through an emergency mobilization. But the good news is, we have done it before. In World War II, the United States was horribly behind in military technology. The Nazis were pioneering new forms of warfare. They were using tanks and planes and ships all at the same time, and they were sweeping through Europe. No one in the United States knew what we were going to do. How can we face this incredibly militarized, industrialized threat when in the United States we were still using horses for warfare? I kid you not. But what we did when we realized after Pearl Harbor that our backs were up against a wall and it was all or nothing, live or die, is that we converted our economy at emergency speed. We didn't make passenger consumer automobiles. We didn't make them at all because those factories made tanks and planes. We can do that again. We do not need factories making useless crap when we are in an emergency situation and we need a rapid transition of our energy and agricultural systems. We do not need to use only policies that work in a neoliberal economic framework. We can ban things. We can seize industries. We are a democracy. It is also a personal choice. The Climate Mobilization is a group that is dedicated to building a social movement that creates this emergency response. We are still small. It is a very scary thing to me that this small group here is the opposition today to that agreement. That is upsetting. This should be 100 times the size. But we are building. It's the way we fight is not the most necessarily exciting thing. It involves a huge amount of emails. It involves a ton of reading and learning and organizing and preparation and hard work. But we don't know what else to do. So, this is Nicole. She is the main organizer of this event. Let's give her a hand. She made those gravestones. She's starting a chapter in New York City for the climate mobilization. Chapters are sprouting up all over the country, and we have 7 congressional candidates for House and Senate who have signed this pledge to mobilize, agreeing to our platform, which calls for a World War II-scale climate mobilization that ends U.S. emissions by 2025 and pulls down excess greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere until a safe climate is restored. 7 congressional candidates have signed this. When we started out, we were kind of a fringe group. People thought, oh, that's a little crazy. A year and a half later, we don't really hear that anymore, because maybe it's because of the huge floods in Houston, or because of the drought in California, or because Pope Francis said that we're nearing suicide. I invite you all to join us. This, maybe now we're like semi-normal position, and help us make it to the whole world what it is to us, which is blindingly obvious. We need to do this, or we will all die in a catastrophic tragedy that I have no desire to live through. Not that that's an option. I will say, just as a final kind of movement strategy note, more and more people are waking up and realizing that normal life is a prescription for disaster. And as they wake up, they're looking for what group to join, what platform to advocate. So join us and be a part of that growth.
So I want to thank both Margaret and Nicole for organizing this event, but I really want to thank everybody in the climate mobilization for having the courage and the honesty to stand up and speak the truth about what is going on with climate change. And across the street today, we're having a lot of people celebrate the signing of COP21. And we all know that agreement is a recipe for climate catastrophe. And that it did not do enough to create the type of World War II mobilization that Margaret articulated. It ignored the industrial nation's responsibility to repair the damage, particularly in third world and developing countries, that they have inflicted through allowing more than a century of burning fossil fuels for corporate greed and corporate profit. Now, the one positive spin that came out of COP21 was at least a recognition that if we were to try to limit global warming to 2 degrees centigrade, that would mean climate catastrophe for most of the planet. And of course, the pledges that they have made fall even short of that 2 degrees. And one of the problems I see here in the United States is that most of the big environmental groups that are funded, by foundations and by their relationships with the power elite and the Democratic Party, continue to promote the old standard. They continue to promote 80 by 50. And they applaud wildly when Governor Cuomo puts band-aids together, such as calling for 50% of just the state's electricity to be renewable energy by 2030. And that is why climate mobilization is so important, because you're willing to stand up and say, no, this is not the answer. That it is not enough for politicians to now say, you know what, I guess climate change is real. And you know what? Renewables are really getting to be cheap. So all we have to do is allow the renewables to solve the problem for us. Well, it is the market that created the problems with climate change. And the idea that the markets are going to solve the problem of climate change is ridiculous. And one of the big issues that many of us here in New York City are trying to promote is to get offshore wind developed in the United States. There is not a single, not one, offshore wind farm presently running in the United States. We do have a small one that's being developed out on Block Island. And a recent report by the University of Delaware said that the reason why we have no offshore wind in the United States and have moved backwards in the last decade is because politicians are relying upon market forces. We don't need market forces. We need the political will, and we need what type of mobilization? And that is what we have to demand. Now today at 3 o'clock, I work with a bunch of other groups, the People's Climate Movement in New York, and the 350 organizations, 350 NYC, and 350 Brooklyn. So we were inspired by your die-in this morning, and we're going to do another die-in, but this time targeted at Mayor de Blasio. New York City is one of the most vulnerable cities on the planet to climate change, starting with Storm Surge, and he is not doing enough. Now today he's making his announcement about his climate change, agendas for the coming year. Will there be some good things in there? Sure. Will it be enough to avoid catastrophic climate change? Absolutely not. And so we're going to do a die-in at 3 p.m. on the steps of City Hall after a little press conference, saying that we need a much more robust operation. We need offshore wind. Now, one thing where you guys are a little bit stronger than us on is the organizations I work call for 100% renewable energy by 2030. Now, it's always good to have some group saying that's not enough. You need 100% by 2025. And I pointed out, you may have seen that last week a British think tank came out and said we could go to 100% renewable energy on this planet by 2025. And I was also very interested, one of the guys who kind of articulated the 100% energy path in the United States is Dr. Mark Jacobson. But he's been moving back from 2030 to 2050. And he put out a report maybe 2-3 weeks ago, another report about 100% clean energy for Canada by 2050. And one of the first times, other professors at Stanford University stood up and said, no, that is too slow. That is not going to solve the problem. That we can do it at least 20 years faster. You guys would say 25 years faster. That you can do it, we can do it 20 years faster than this 2050 that Mark Jacobson keeps promoting. And Mark Jacobson responded, well, they're right. We could do it a lot faster than I'm talking about. And what I'm doing is I'm giving 20 years to deal with the political will and the lack of political will. And I say, if you're concerned about the political will, change the political will. And if you start off by giving politicians, well, we're going to give you 20 years so you can play around, they'll just take another 40 years. And I will say one thing I was surprised about at COP21 was that Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governor Terminator, said, what the heck is this 2050 stuff? We're going to be out of it by 2050. And if you talk to politicians about 2050, they ignore it. Politicians think as far as the next election. So we need to talk about what are you going to do in the next 2 years, the next 3 years, the next 5 years, and where we're going to be in 10 years by 2025. Not what your plans are in 2050. One last thing I'll say is that I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, Jill Stein. She's actually running for president as a Green. And she reminded me, Teddy Questions Earth Day, that's why you guys are here, about a Green New Deal. And the idea behind the Green New Deal is to do that World War II type mobilization to transition to 100% renewable energy as quickly as we possibly can, and to pay for it by slashing the military budget by at least 50%, some of us would like more, by putting a real carbon tax into place, and I mean big, not this little dinky stuff that they treat as a petty cash payment, and and taxing the rich. The solutions exist, as you all know. What is lacking is the political will. We need to embrace what they said in Paris, that the world, needs to try to cap it at 1.5 degrees. 1.5 degrees probably may be too high, and you probably know last month we actually went over 1.5 degrees. And I work with 350, and the reason we're called 350 is because the goal was to cap the amount of carbon in the atmosphere at 350 parts per million. Well, we've been over 400 for the last year. We are losing this fight. We got a very, very short time frame to be successful. I really applaud, the numbers are not as big today as they were at the People's Climate March. But you can get there. You don't give up, continue to fight, and join us today at 3 p.m. at City Hall and die in to say the mayor's got to do more on climate change. Thank you.
Green power now. 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 Wind, solar, wind, solar, wind, solar, wind, solar. Let's do that. Wind, solar, wind, solar, wind, solar, wind, solar, people over profits, 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 people over profits now. Green power now. Green power now. People over profits now. People over profits now. People over profits yes. 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 Wind, solar, wind, solar. Green power now. Green power now. Green power